This is a typical small tear on a large sail. What we're going to do in this particular case is we're going to repair it by hand using a hand needle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of thread and we're going to thread it into our needle like so. This is only a short piece of thread. It's about, I don't know, probably 10 times the length of the slit. You don't want a particularly long piece of thread, because if you use too much thread you have to pull it through and it becomes a pain to do. We're going to tie a knot in the end just to make sure it doesn't slip through. I'm only going to sew with single thread on this particular occasion because all we're doing is reinforcing a small hole to avoid it tearing again. We're going to make a stopper knot there. We could cut it off or probably tidy it up when we finish, but that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do here is simply go through the thread. I like to sew from right to left in this case, but it's up to you. What we're going to try and do is we're going to create what is called a herringbone stitch. And in a herringbone stitch, what I'm doing is I'm going through the cloth, both sides, starting before the area where the tear is, just to make sure that we don't that we've got strong cloth, so we're not pulling through where we shouldn't be. So what all I'm doing here is just making sure that my stitch, my starting point, is firm and in good cloth before we start. Now this is where we start to create the herringbone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I go through the stitch on the other side, so we start to create this sort of fishbone effect where I'm effectively tying both sides of my stitch together. So if you look at that, what I've now got is I've got two stitches sort of into each other. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and this is basically what we're going to do for the rest of the process, but at this stage I'm going to go through here. It's about 3-4 millimeters from the previous one, so it gives you an idea of where we are. It gives you an idea of size. I'm going to come out there, you can see the needle coming through, and then when we come back we're going to come through. I'm just going to show you this. I've got the loop where I went through the first time. I'm going to bring the needle back through the loop so that we create a tie between both sides. Now in this particular case I'm going to go back now here, and I'm going to take a stitch through the beginning of the tear because that is where we're going to start bringing the thing together. Now because we're stitching this as a herringbone, what you will see is that we're going to go through each time, so we create a sort of structure up the middle. We're not going to end up with stitches straight opposite each other. We're going to sort of 1/4 of an inch each side from here up. So I'm going to go in about 1/4 of an inch through there. You see I'm coming out into nice strong healthy cloth on the other side. I come out there, then I bring it through the cloth, and then I go back through the thread that I'm using myself, so I start to create this hitch effect. Now the next stitch is going to be exactly the same. I go through under the cloth into the tear, come through, leaving about 3-4 millimeters each side. Then I go through this thread again, and we're beginning to create this sort of chain effect, which is reasonably well known as a herringbone, as we come up the sail. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create this all the way up until we finish. So I'm going to leave you here, finish the stitch, and then she'll come back in a minute. In this particular case, as you may see, actually as I ran up I found that in this area we'd actually got a second tear. So rather than go in and do a double herringbone, which would be one of the options, what I did was simply sew the bones, if you like, on that side of the herringbone longer, so as to make sure that we were tying into good cloth and give it a bash from there. And realistically, this is a much stronger repair than having the hole. If I wanted to do a really good repair, I'd probably put a patch on it both sides, but that also in turn means that you've added material. There's of course gluing and sewing everything, whereas in this particular case, just by sewing the herringbone nicely up each side, I've got a nice tidy reinforcement which will hold probably for as long as a patch would, and it will definitely stop this particular rip from tearing any further. if you wanted to, you could then stick a patch over the top of this, but you with the added advantage that you've got the original cloth properly tied together. One of the problems with patching sails, most people tend to patch sails by putting a piece of sticky tape, either one of those sail repair tapes which they sell, you can buy from a whole pile of places like West Marine and others, or even some proper adhesive Dacron. But when even using adhesive Dacron, you're going to end up with a patch which could come off and could pull, which is completely different from this. If we do put any type of cover over it, well, it's up to us afterwards. Now here, of course, as you see, I've got to the end of the slit just now, and when I got to the end of the slit, I haven't got anywhere else to go through, so we're going to have to finish it off by going in for some good material. The reason I want to show you this, and this sail is actually all tied up, so I haven't even got the thing off the ground, is what we want to do is we're going to go through the material again and come up. When we do that, what we're essentially doing is we're creating an extension to the slit, so we can put the stitches in, hold the end of our repair into good cloth. So hopefully, if we've done it right, and you'll see here, I'm unfortunate that I've got another damaged piece of cloth bang next to it, so I'm going to continue a bit further up here. What we've got is we've got material which should hold for a pretty reasonable amount of time. You'll notice here I'm coming back through, I'm going through the material twice, making jolly sure that the stitches as we put them in are tied together. All we do at the end here is to finish it off with a knot after darning the material, after bringing the thread through properly to make sure that there's nothing that's going to give way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come around again, give it a couple of stitches. I'll use that same hole I've just been through but come the other way, and hopefully find that this thing will tie up. I've just left enough thread to tie the thing off properly. Now my recommendation on my experience on this has been that it's actually better not to try and feed the tail of this back through this herringbone, because you'll find that it's broken. So what I will do here is I'm going to go through just round again, find another stitch, so we can sort of terminate this in a sensible way. I'm not even going to bother to make another hole. I'm going to go back through the hole we had here, and then see if I've got enough thread left on this needle. And you see, this is why I said you need about 10 times the length of the cuts of the seam, the hole you're trying to repair, because of all the thread that goes into going backwards and forwards and coming in over the top. So that's sort of okay. I'm going to come around here and sort of finish it off at this area where everything we're doing is in good cloth. I haven't really got left enough thread. I'm on the last bit I could possibly use. I think that will tie off there. I'm going to come around and give it a hitch round from this side, if I can still get my needle through. Yeah, you see that's just about going to do the trick. It just teaches me not to be so stingy on the quantity of thread I use. You see, so what we do there, we just tied the knot round the last remaining stitches, and that's the thread I've got left. I hope that's been useful to you. It's definitely something nobody ever taught me to do, so I hope you enjoy it.